Hey guys, welcome back to Behind the Music by Media by Elise. Today we're going to be interviewing my boyfriend, Drew Bolia, also known as DB Beats. Come on, let's go.
Hi, my name is Drew Bolia. My stage name is DB Beats. I'm a music producer and music engineer out in the Boston area, and this is a story about how I got started into my music career. I grew up in Ipswich, Massachusetts for most of my life, went to Ipswich High School, then went to college at Norwich University, which is a military school up in Vermont. When I first started making music, I was around 17, 18 years old. I think I was a junior in high school. I always loved listening to music. One day, my brother installed Fruity Loops, which is a music making software on the family computer. I fell in love with making beats and stuff, so I started exploring it a little bit more and more. And then once I went off to school, I still wanted to make music, but I had to learn how to engineer. So I got my first microphone and was running a lot of sessions out of the barracks up at Norwich. From there is when I started to train my ear and become more of an engineer in a full package so that I could continue to make music while I was up at school. First studio that I worked at was with my buddy Sebastian. He was engineering sessions there for a while. He invited me to start working with him to provide beats to all of his clients. So we worked out of his studio, which was called Christian Hill Studios, for about 2 years. After that, he had found commercial space and invited me to open up a studio in one of the rooms. I was working there for about two and a half years with my own clients as I started to engineer tracks and started to kind of separate myself from him and build my own music career. Big challenge that we faced is 2 years after being there was a fire on the floor above us, causing damage to thousands of dollars of equipment and having us to move out of that commercial space. And then that led to me having to make my setup mobile. So I was taking what I had left of my equipment and going to artist house and basically anywhere that we could to just get recordings in so that we could still make music. Once I went to a mobile setup for my studio, I started going all around the North Shore and South Shore to do sessions for people. Most notably, I did a session down in Dorchester for my clients, and they had heard a artist coming up from Atlanta named Yahweh Almighty. He was originally from Boston, moved down to Atlanta, moved over to LA, and came back to Boston. They needed somebody to run the session, and no studio was open at the time, so they had me bring all of my equipment down to Dorchester to run a session there. After that, me and Yahweh worked on our first song together, and then after that, we started working a lot more closely as he preferred the mobile studio setup compared to going to a studio in a building, stuff like that. He was booked for some shows in Phoenix and Scottsdale, Arizona. He wanted to make music while he was out on the road, so he invited me to go out there while he was doing his shows. After that, we came back to Boston, and he was booked for another show in Vegas. He asked me if I wanted to go to Vegas for the weekend, and I said sure. When we got to Vegas, we did our show. After that show, Yahweh was invited to complete the tour for the rest of the 2 months that the tour was going on. After Vegas, we spent 3 weeks in Atlanta doing shows over there. Most notably, we did a performance at a club out there, had a birthday going on for an influencer. There was a Javante Davis fight at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So we were invited to go to the Javante Davis fight, which had a Little Baby and 42 Doug concert after it. We had the privilege to stand on stage and be backstage for that show as we would be doing a small opening act for them. At the end of my time in Atlanta, we currently weren't booked for any more shows, and so the tour was over. On the last day of being in Atlanta, I looked over to Yahweh and I said, you know, I've never been to LA, which he had previously lived in. I said, oh, I have peoples out in LA. There was a moment of silence and we both looked at each other and we said, screw it, let's go to LA. So we ended up going to LA, not booking any shows originally. Yahweh had a few contacts. I was able to call a few people. That's how we started to get shows booked. We did a West Coast tour afterwards from Los Angeles all the way up to the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco, and Berkeley. Shortly after landing, Yahweh reached out to his people, and his people were looking for music producers to work on the music soundtrack for the upcoming show Operation Hidden Treasure, which is where I got my opportunity to work with the Discovery Channel to put music together for it. Other cool opportunities that I had while I was out there was Yahweh was doing a track with Coil Ray, so both being from Boston, they worked on a song together. We met Coil Ray at the Nightingale Club, spent the night with her and hung out, which was a pretty cool experience. Another opportunity we got to experience was working with Jerry Gosling. Jerry Gosling was influential in a lot of celebrities' early career. He owns a studio, Blakesley Recording. He worked a lot with Yahweh on their own project. You know, just being able to have input and be a part of that was also a special opportunity. While we were in LA, we were able to go backstage to a Bobby Brown and Keith Sweat event because Yahweh is Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston's nephew. So we got to go backstage for that event, kind of had the red carpet treatment. After the event, when we were backstage, I got to meet with Bobby Brown, Keith Sweat, and Swizz Beatz, and I got to talk with Swizz Beatz a little bit about, you know, his music journey and his music thoughts and how he kind of likes to make music. As I was working with Yahweh Yahweh for a lot of his songs and projects and stuff. I was also kind of gaining a little bit of traction with a lot of the people that were listening to Yahweh's music. They were asking where he got his beats and how they were able to get in contact with him. So Yahweh saw my potential and also decided to pick up a bit of a management role in my music career. I've been able to work with a lot of great artists because of that connection. I worked with one of Soulja Boy's artists, Flo Malcolm. I worked with A Boogie's artist, Lil Rec, as well as the Coil Ray song that Yahweh featured on. What I enjoy most about being a music producer and a music engineer is, as a music producer, you build the foundation for the track. So this is going to set the vibe for the listeners and for the artist to record on. And what I love about engineering is you really get to tailor the sound to how you want the listeners to hear it. You can really create unique sounds for artists, which can then carry them through their career. The way I stay inspired is just by listening to new music constantly. I mean, there's always new subgenres coming out. I mean, if we look at music over the last 20, 30 years, we go from inspiration from people like Kanye with his legendary sampling and boom bap style beats, all the way to what Playboi Carti has done recently and gone to blend kind of like an EDM and hip hop rap kind of vibe. So music is constantly changing, and just kind of listening to new music, seeing what people like, it inspires you to create your own uniqueness and your own sound. Piece of advice that I still think of all the time is to never try and be somebody else. Everybody has their own place in the music industry. You want to be as unique as possible in your own way and really create your own sound. And if you can find a producer who can do that with you, then I believe you'll have great success in the music industry. I do a lot of my sessions here at Sound Shuttle in Boxford, which is real close to me, so I love using the facility here, as well as it's probably, not even probably, it is the nicest studio in the North Shore. The equipment here is just second to none. I believe that this has the best tools to get the best sounding music that you possibly can get before release. I've worked with a lot of artists out of this studio. I work with an artist named Bray, Rico Six, Yahweh Almighty, Migo. You might recognize some of my work from hearing my tag.
DB, you made this?
Okay, yeah. Hold on.
It's okay, we can cut it.
I'm trying to, and I love doing music so much is because of this. Love the, hold on, fuck. I'm trying to think. All right. Some other notable, oh my God. I don't know why I just did that. Oh my God. Some other notable artists that I've worked for in the oh my God, dude. I can't talk in front of a camera. I don't know why I just plugged them there.